Welcome back to Footballology. I'm glad that you guys decided to watch this one. That first part of this mock draft was insane and it was crazy and it was out there. And some of those picks, though, like I looked at them, I went back and looked at some of those picks. Those picks were quality picks. I'm actually excited about some of those picks. And so now the second part of this mock draft is only going to get crazier and more insane. And some of these picks are going to be out there. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are going to disagree from this point on. If not, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I really embrace the love. I'm just excited about this second part. I'm excited for you guys to see it. So let's get right into this video.
Drop down and shake it, shake. Drop down and shake it, shake. Drop down and shake it, shake. Drop down and shake it. Drop down and shake it, shake.
To kick off this video, we got the Atlanta Falcons picking at number 17 overall. So I can't put my finger on it exactly where this team is going. You thought they were going with a defensive-minded coach in Dan Quinn, so you definitely thought they were going to bolster their defense. But they really didn't attack the defensive side of the ball in free agency like I expected them to. And obviously, the biggest notable pickup they had was Alex Mack, and which was a phenomenal pickup for them. They needed him. Now you start to protect Matt Ryan, and this is something they've been needing to do for quite some time. And they kind of avoided it and try to like duct tape the offensive line. But going to get Alex Mack showing that you're serious about it. You get Matthews last year in the draft. This year in the draft, you're going to get another guy to add to the offensive line. That offensive line would be on LaRaven Clark. I think LaRaven can come in and definitely secure that right tackle position for this team. So now you start to get a stud right tackle. A. B, he doesn't have the pressure of trying to play the left tackle position at this point. And dude just locks in your right tackle position. Now you got two good tackles in Matthews and Clark. And then you got Alex Mack anchoring in the center. And then you can start tweaking your guard play a little bit. I know they picked up a guy, the Schwartz guy out of Tennessee. I want to say, it's not Matt. I think it's Jeff Schwartz. I think, don't quote me on that. And they picked him up, but he was kind of iffy in Tennessee. So now it's like, get Clark, put him at the right tackle, got Matthews at the left, Mack at center, and then you start to tweak those guards a little bit. Now you're starting to put together a solid offensive line in front of Matt Ryan. All right, here we go. We got the Indianapolis Colts. Now this team aggravates me so much. I've been so mad at this team for the last year, literally the last year, since they took Philip Dorsett in the first round. I've been so angry with this team. You guys know how I feel about this team if you watched my last mock draft. This is a team that has the potential to be a consistent playoff and a consistent Super Bowl contender, but they are not doing the right thing. Philip Dorsett was the worst first-round pick I've seen in my history. Yes, I'm talking about in my history of loving the NFL and actually following the NFL like I do. Even Jamarcus Russell, I think, was a better pick. At least he, at that point, was the right pick in the right position for that team. Philip Dorsett had no reason to go in the first round because he was the profile of a guy you already had on your roster that you had just locked up for X amount of time. I think it was like 5 years they just locked up T.Y. Hilton. So Indianapolis made me so mad with that pick. So mad because they basically said, Andrew Luck could be all right. He's a young dude. He could take a couple of hits. He took a couple of hits, and you seen what happened. So now if anybody from the Indianapolis organization, any Indianapolis fans are watching this right now, please listen to this pick. Now, I know if you're a Colts fan, you're probably looking at me like I'm crazy. Go get Ryan Kelly in the first round. Listen to me. Go get Ryan Kelly in the first round. Something Peyton Manning had when he was in Indianapolis was Jeff Saturday. He had a guy that can control the line of scrimmage for him, so that was one less thing Peyton had to do. Ryan Kelly can be that for Andrew Luck. Anchor down that offensive line right at the center position. Have a guy of Ryan Kelly's intelligence and intangibles and everything that he brings to the game from the center spot. Have a guy like him controlling the line of scrimmage, controlling those other five guys, calling out blitzes, doing whatever he needs to do to make sure number 12 stays upright and delivers that ball to all these receivers that y'all want to consistently pick. Okay? Go get Ryan Kelly. Plain and simple, straight to the point. Nothing else needs to be said. At number 19, we got the Buffalo Bills. Now, I really like where this team is trying to go, and they had that stellar defense, 2 years ago? And then this year they had that stellar offense. And it really wasn't a stellar offense. It was just a nice complementary of good weapons coming together, and they're still trying to find their way. So now, can we get back to getting that defense, though? We got the offense in place, and I think some of these guys are going to come in and they're still going to play at the high level they are with a Tyrod Taylor, with a Sammy Watkins. Hopefully Robert Woods can contribute, and then Charles Clay being one of those guys as well. Shady McCoy, I know his stuff is up in the air right now, but hopefully he can get his situated. So now we can really, they got Carlos Williams. What am I saying? So hopefully they can just stay intact. Basically, that's all we're asking from the offense. Is just stay intact, stay with that continuity and grow, but don't lose that fire and that passion to attack down the field. Let's get back to attacking this defensive side of the ball. You lose Mario Williams in free agency, but I got the perfect guy for you. This is the ideal pick for the Buffalo Bills. Getting Shaq Lawson at this pick, obviously a great value at this point, and a guy that can replace Mario Williams because he's going to want to play football. Now, I know last year there was a play that some people said that Mario Williams was supposed to do something. It was a New England game that Buffalo played, and he didn't do it and left the running back wide open down the sideline. I'm not sure what was exactly supposed to happen on that play from a defensive standpoint, but if that was supposed to happen, shame on Mario Williams. You know what I mean? So go get a Shaq Lawson to replace Mario Williams. He can be that 3-4 outside pass rusher that you need, but he has somewhat the athleticism that you need to drop back in coverage. So maybe he starts to listen to Rex a little bit. We can start getting that dominant D front that they had from 2 years ago where they put up, 50-plus sacks? Oh, my God, it was nasty. Hughes and Williams and Darius and Williams, they were all getting off. So hopefully Shaq Lawson can bring that back to this team and definitely be that key piece. At number 20 overall, we got the New York Jets picking. Now, this team is kind of in shambles right now, trying to figure out if they want to re-sign Fitzpatrick, if they don't want to re-sign Fitzpatrick. Does he get the big money? Does he not get the big money? Then DeBrickashaw Ferguson decides to retire. Dude is a phenomenal, underrated left tackle, probably the most underrated left tackle in the league, in my opinion. I don't think he ever gets the credit that he deserves for doing what he does, and he does it at a high level consistently. He decides to retire, so now the New York Jets are like, oh, now we need an offensive lineman. Because even if Fitzpatrick does come back now, you don't have nobody protecting his blind side. Now, today is April the 10th. On April the 9th, I seen the news of Ryan Clady going to the New York Jets, hoping to replace DeBrickashaw Ferguson in that left tackle position. But Ryan Clady hasn't been healthy for the last 2 or 3 years. Hopefully he can put together a whole 16-game season. And if we can get that from him, that'd be quality. But I think the New York Jets still should get this guy. The Jets still should get Taylor Decker. Now, I made this mock draft a little bit prior to the whole Ryan Clady move. Taylor Decker is still a good fit for them. Even if he plays right tackle, he can definitely start to shore up that offensive line a little bit more. I really didn't feel like this team needed many more pieces. Maybe a defensive player at the linebacker position, but there's a couple of linebackers that I feel like you can get in the second and third round and still get good value and good play out of those guys. So Taylor Decker comes in and starts to secure up your offensive line a little bit more, and then also adds a little bit more youth to that offensive line. DeBrickashaw being the first of many that are going to potentially retire. You still got some old guys on that offensive line. Bring in Taylor Decker, let him develop, even if it's at right tackle, or if you decide to move him to left and pick Clady at the right, whatever the case may be, Taylor Decker would be the perfect fit for the New York Jets. At 21 overall, we have the Washington Redskins. Now, there's a guy on YouTube named Louis T, the Louis T Network channel. You guys should definitely go check it out. And he's a huge Washington Redskins fan. So, Lou, if you're watching this, I hope you enjoy this pick. I hope it's a good pick. But the Washington Redskins are a team that are definitely on the rise with getting Kirk Cousins, which I knew they should have did a long time ago. And Matt Jones is a guy that definitely fits what they're trying to do there. And then something they're doing really secretly, they're putting together a quality offensive line. They're putting together a Dallas offensive line, almost caliber to Dallas. And so a lot of people are not talking about that. But that's happening. But now where this team is starting to kind of fall back is the defensive side of the ball. I feel like they need to get a guy on defense, definitely, and they can allow them to take that next step. I think Mackensie Alexander could be that guy for the Washington Redskins. He can definitely allow them to take that next step in the right direction. Now, something that a lot of people don't talk about with the Redskins last year, that secondary was good, and then it was extremely bad. Then the injuries started to plague that secondary, and it really hurt them. I think Mackensie Alexander is a guy that can come in and add some talent and some depth to that secondary and definitely start to move this team in the right direction. The front end helps the back end, and the back end helps the front end. I think the Washington Redskins has a young and up-and-coming front end. They definitely need to get that back end together, and I think Mackensie Alexander is the perfect guy for them. At number 22 overall, we have the Houston Texans. Now, if you got awards in the offseason for the best, free agent signings and things of that nature, or the best need fillers, I think the Houston Texans will definitely be one of those teams we talked about. They went out, they cut some dead weight in Arian Foster and a couple of other guys. Then they start to bring in guys that they feel like they can help their team today and help them take that next step. I mean, after watching that playoff game, and me being a Chiefs fan, that was a quality playoff game. After watching that playoff game as a Houston Texans fan, you knew what needed to happen this offseason. The front office knew what needed to happen, and they went out and did that. So by them addressing practically almost every need that they needed in free agency, it allows this next pick to be a really quality pick. You guys can go out and go get a Deforest Buckner. Now, this guy can come in and just play football. He doesn't have any added pressure of, oh, you're going to turn our defense around or anything of that nature. He comes in. He has J.J. Watt. He has Vince Wilfork. He has Davian Clowney. Hopefully he comes around. He has Bernard McKinney. He has Willie Merciless. So he has a lot of key pieces around him in that front. And that front seven gets more dangerous and stronger with adding DeForest Buckner. And man, that would just be crazy, right? You put Buckner out there along all those lines. Romeo Crennel at that point is scheming everything. So I think Buckner is a perfect fit for Houston Texans. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this team, Zimmer is starting to use that Cincy scheme, that Cincy mind thought or that mindset of Cincinnati, and then he was going to try to do it, and same thing in Cleveland. So give it time, Cleveland. Give it time. Give Hugh time, and he will. But Zimmer's starting to do that in Minnesota. Now we're starting to see this team crazy talented at almost every level of their defense. This team is starting to get extremely talented on the offensive side of the ball. The question is, does Teddy Bridgewater need another weapon? No, he doesn't. I don't think you actually need to go out and spend a first-round draft pick on another weapon for Teddy B, especially where you're trying to go with that offense. I think that offense is going to be more of a ground-and-pound offense next year with high percentage passing. So getting another weapon is just kind of waste of money at this point. I think this next pick is a guy that you definitely need for the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings need to go out and get Andre Billings. He can add some depth and talent to that killer D-line that I feel like is almost starting to take that turn. And that's what Zimmer is known for, to have a quality, talented depth D-line. That's what he had in Cincy, and I think that's what he's going to start building here in Minnesota. So you go out and get Andre Billings, putting him next to Sharif Floyd. You still got Hunter from last year that came on really strong. You got Robinson that's really good, and you got Everson Griffin that's really good. Adding Andre Billings to this offensive line can make this offensive line another dominant Minnesota front and something that Minnesota's known for. At 24, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals was one of those teams that last year they were airing it out like crazy. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to pass it. But now we're starting to see them not retain some of these receivers. So I think they're going to start to go to a more of a ground-and-pound offense with Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. They have two quality running backs to do that. And I think that's where they're kind of going to start leaning to. I'm interested to see what scheme this offense is going to play in next year. But if my ideal is right and what I think is right, this next guy is perfect fit for them. I think since he should go out and get Josh Garnett, definitely add a little bit more strength and depth to that offensive line and more of a run-heavy offensive line at that point. Now, offensive lineman isn't one of their higher needs. I think, you can make a case for wide receiver. You can even make a case for maybe linebacker. But I think Garnett is a guy that they can come in and definitely, like I said, if I'm right, and I think I am, they can transition into a more of a heavy run-style offense. And Garnett being one of those pieces, you still got Zyther there. I think I said this right. And then you got Andre Whitworth. So you have some quality offensive linemen there. There's some other guys on the offensive line that are really good as well. But Garnett can come in, add him to the offensive line, add some depth, add some power, and then you can start running the ball with Jeremy Hill. Hopefully Jeremy Hill can go back to his more aggressive running attack. I think he got a little finesse this past season. So it's up to Jeremy Hill to get a little bit more aggressive in this upcoming season. At number 25, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, last year, if you go back and watch my mock draft, I had the Pittsburgh Steelers getting Marcus Peters. And me being a Chiefs fan, I'm glad that didn't happen because that dude is legit. But the Steelers needed Marcus Peters. Them getting Marcus Peters was a quality, solid pick for them, knowing that they needed that cornerback help. I feel like Pittsburgh needed cornerback help for like the last 7-8 years, and they just masked it with such a good pass rush and D front. And then on top of that, just quality scheme. I think that secondary kind of gotten exposed a little bit over the course of this last year or two, and with some of the retirements and some of the guys leaving, and Dick LeBeau leaving and being one of those guys as well. So I think this next guy he's a true Pittsburgh Steelers player, and I'm thinking that he'd be the perfect fit for Pittsburgh. Kendall Fuller would be the perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers because he can play the pass, but he also can come up and help stop the run. And in AFC North, that's something you want to do. You want to have a strong, aggressive corner, and I think that's something Fuller can add to this secondary that they're kind of starting to miss a little bit. They don't have that aggressive secondary player anymore like they've had in years past. The Steelers are always been known for a dominant D front and a extremely quality, talented player on the back end. Not saying Fuller is going to live up to that name or that hype of that secondary player, but definitely start to add pieces to a secondary that's desperately needing something. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, last offseason, we seen the Seattle Seahawks said, oh, we got a mobile quarterback. Our offensive line can be tweaked a little bit. We can start bringing in some new pieces. And then the first part of the season, they were like, what did we just do? We kind of hurt ourselves. Max Unger, once again, was an anchor for that offensive line, something Ryan Kelly is going to be for the Indianapolis Colts. Listen, Andy. So them getting rid of Max Unger kind of hurt them a little bit. I think they need to get back to trying to put together a solid offensive line in front of Russell Wilson, because once again, you want to protect your investment. You want to protect your quarterback. And when you have a guy as quality as Russell Wilson, you want to do something to make sure that he stays upright. You could do that by going out and getting Jason Spriggs. Now, I'm not sure if he could play the left tackle position, and I'm not sure how confident teams will be in him playing the left tackle position. If he has to play the right tackle position, then so be it. Start doing some shuffling up front, but you need to start adding pieces to that, because now you lost Max Unger, and then you just lost Russell Okung. So now you need to start to replenish that offensive line. You've been so focused on your defense and replenishing your defense, sometimes you lose sight of some other things, and offensive lineman has been one of those pieces. You added weapons to the outside, but you start to kind of diminish your interior, your offensive line, and that's what's kind of hurt Seattle a little bit. So getting Spriggs is hopefully a guy that can come in if he starts at right or left tackle, wherever the case may be. But I think he adds a piece to the offensive line that allow other pieces to shuffle around, and hopefully can find the best five to protect. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers is a team that, once again, they didn't protect their quarterback. I told myself at the beginning of this whole offseason process, if you're an offensive lineman coming out this year, you picked the right year. There's a lot of good quarterbacks getting attacked and getting harassed, and teams are going to want to protect those guys. Aaron Rodgers being one of those guys, Green Bay needs to protect him, and I think they can do it with this next guy in so many different ways. Germain Ifedi can do that for the Green Bay Packers, and let me explain to you how. He doesn't necessarily have to play tackle, because I know they got a couple of tackles out there that they actually like or are probably invested in, but he can kick in the guard. And now once he kicks in the guard, he adds some power and strength and some nastiness to an offensive line that's desperately missing that. You got one of the best power runners in the league now, because Marshawn's not in the league anymore. So you have probably one of the better power runners in the league right now, and Eddie Lacy. Let that man get behind some nasty, aggressive offensive linemen and let him get to work, while in turn still protecting A-Rod, because that's what's big right here, right? If you can prevent from throwing the ball 45 to 50 times, that's 45 to 50 times that Aaron Rodgers can take that hit that could potentially knock him out for the season. Why not cut that back to 30 to 35 and then up the running a little bit more? People need to start running the ball a little bit more to protect these quarterbacks, and hopefully Germain can do that for the Green Bay Packers and see where they go from there. Here we go, the pick that a lot of people have probably been waiting for on my channel, because I have probably a lot more Kansas City Chiefs fans watching this than I do any other fans. So with that being said, I don't think a lot of my Chiefs fans are going to like this next pick, but I think it's the best pick for the Chiefs here. They probably could address this same need in the later parts of the draft, but I feel like getting this guy here can help them out a lot. Don't make fun of me for this, but I think his name is Glasgow. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. I just butcher names sometimes. So this guy is really quality and really solid. We know Andy Reid likes his offensive linemen, and we're starting to see a run on offensive linemen. And the reason why is because teams are trying to protect their quarterback still, and we're one of those teams that we run the ball more than we pass the ball. And when we pass the ball, we want to make sure that Alex Smith stays upright. This guy can add depth with his ability to play up and down at all five, and that's something Andy Reid really enjoys. Getting an offensive lineman here sounds really nasty and really kind of crazy, but I think any other position didn't really make too much sense to me. You know, we want pass rushers. No, I don't think we need another pass rusher. Let's not invest another late first round pick in a pass rusher. Receiver, this receiver class is deep enough to the point where we can get a guy in the second and third round like we got Chris Conley last year, and that's the guy that I'm banking on to make that transition to the number 2 spot. So this guy is the smartest pick in my opinion. I think that he can add that depth by being able to play in all five. And then we've lost guys that can do that, and Jeff Allen, John Asamoah, Ronnie Hudson. We've lost guys that have been quality players for us. We need to start to replenish our offensive line stock so we can still stay dominant. Next, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this team was right there. They were right there. They kind of unraveled in the playoffs, you know what I mean? They start to let teams creep on them. Green Bay almost took them out. Then they met Carolina, and Carolina fucking axed them. So they they're a team that can do it. They don't need to add too much more to the team. They need to just grow on what they did last year and become better. So this next pick almost makes sense. Now, if you're a Cardinals fan, think about this before you kind of start to kind of chew my head off. You go out and get Jaylon Smith, right? A desperately needed middle linebacker that you guys have been kind of missing because Daryl Washington apparently can't stay out of trouble. And the dude is a phenomenal. He's a beast too. He doesn't get enough credit. But I think Jaylon Smith makes sense for you guys. Let him sit out a year, so be it, whatever. As long as we know that his knee is fine and he can play next season, it makes perfect sense, right? Because then you get him back next year, and then you get your other first-round pick next year, and this defense stay on top and stay dominant. And I think adding a Jaylon Smith at this point it's a good pick. It might sound crazy. I know he might not go into the second or third round, but I like this pick for the Arizona Cardinals because it's not a team that's desperately needing for anything. They just need to make sure they grow onto what they did last year. Jaylon Smith is a guy that you can take that risk on and know that if he comes out next year and he balls out the way he does, you're going to get a beast. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. This was a team by at least week 13, week 14, you had in the big game, which they made it to. You just didn't think they were going to get dominated the way they did. They dominated through the whole entire postseason, and then they get into the Super Bowl, and then it's like, oh, no, we still got to protect Cam Newton. Cam Newton can't do it all by himself, and that's what we've learned. I think this next guy is definitely going to help this team in the right way. They lost some other guys that I feel like could have went here in the earlier parts of the draft, but I think this next guy can definitely help. Christian Westerman is a guy that I feel like that can play at this next level and play with great size and athleticism, and that's what Carolina needs from their offensive linemen. They don't need really a big size mauler. They need an athletic guy that can get on the edge because they like to run that option stuff. So if you get an athletic guard like a Westerman, he can start to pull a little bit more. Those quarterback option runs are a little bit more dangerous at that point. You need to bolster his offensive line, and that's something we know for sure. So I think that getting him allows you to protect Cam Newton, but at the same time, run the ball effectively like you did last year. All right, here we are. We at the end of our mock draft. We got the Denver Broncos. I don't hate Denver, but they are in my division, and it's like at that point, it's like, man, y'all need to go on somewhere. Hopefully this next guy, though, can allow this team to kind of replenish their stock because they completely lost to everybody in the offseason, in my opinion. This team was stripped down to the studs, not by purpose, just because money. You know, money talks, and the rings, they got it all. So at this point, people wanted a taste of that, and they want to bring that championship mindset to their team. So they did get stripped down, and it's what happens. It's the nature of the business. But I think this next guy is going to allow them to turn the page and get on to the next chapter of what they're trying to do. And Jared Goff just fell to Denver Broncos at number 31. It makes perfect sense. They go get a quarterback that Gary Kubiak can now kind of mold, you know, kind of get his guy in there. I don't think that Brock Osweiler was his guy, so that's one reason why they didn't retain Brock. So now they go get Jared Goff, and he's a guy that can come in and, like I said, Kubiak can mold into what he wants him to be for that team and what he wants him to be in the future for this team. And you just kind of get Mark Sanchez as your backup quarterback just in case it doesn't work out for you. More or less a safety pick or an insurance, if you will. You don't need much from him. You can run the ball. You have a stellar defense. So putting in a young quarterback in this team doesn't hurt much. Well, that's it for the 2016 NFL Mock Draft Footballology. I'm excited about this mock draft. I like this mock draft. I like what I put together. This was one of the harder drafts to kind of mock because, like I said, once you got past the first 10 to 15 picks, it was kind of like who's going where, who's going to do what. That's why I feel like there's going to be a lot of trading in this draft because a lot of teams are going to move up to get guys and a lot of teams are going to move back to gain picks to get other guys that they feel like they can get in the later parts of the draft. As you've seen in part 2, I had a lot of offensive linemen going. I think a lot of these teams that are picking this late in the draft needed that offensive line help. I believe in having a stellar, strong offensive line and a stellar, strong defense. If you could put those two things on any team, I feel like you have a Super Bowl winning team. Hopefully that some of these teams take some of these offensive linemen, and hopefully, you know, like Indianapolis, I swear, if Indianapolis take anything outside of offensive linemen, I will be angry. I will hope Andrew Luck get traded for like a third-round pick. I don't care what happens to that team if they do not take an offensive lineman this year in the draft. But that's it. That's all I have for you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this part 1 and part 2 of these mock drafts. And if you're not a footballologist yet, I don't know what you're waiting on. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel today. Become a footballologist. And stay safe, football fans. The draft is almost here.